Yep, that's pretty much what I was expecting for a guy like Syril. What's up guys, Mesa Windu here. Hope you guys are enjoying Andor as much as I am. I wanted to put out a fairly quick video looking at Syril Karn in retrospect now that his story is complete. Shout out to Kyle Soller for an excellent portrayal of the character as always. We may never see his like again. A few months ago I did a video essay called The Syril Karn Pipeline, which still holds up even with all the new info we've gotten through the second season of Andor these last few weeks since the video got uploaded, where I discuss Syril Karn and his passion as a young man eager to be a vanguard for the fascist government he serves. I argued that while I think him being an ideological fascist is debatable, he is still one that works to further the goals of fascism. He was troubled by the influence of his overbearing Fox News mom, an absent father that didn't make things easier in his developmental years, and I imagine that those feelings of inadequacy and insecurity were things that were driven into him through his early experiences, needing to find someone or something to blame. He found his love for order and justice within the institutions of the Galactic Empire. He had a keen sense of detail, a proven desire to work hard, and these on their own are admirable qualities to have. But when these skills and traits are used to further the influence of fascism, authoritarianism, you become a worker bee in the fascist hive, which is what I regarded Syril Karn as, the worker bee, the cog in the machine. That video was published about a month or so before Andor Season 2 premiered, and I was very much expecting some new info to come out that would make me want to revisit that video's assessment of Syril. For example, I did not know that Syril and Dedra were going to end up being an actual thing. I felt that it was rather ambiguous and pretty creepy at the end of Season 1, and while I fully expected their paths to cross again in some form or fashion, I didn't know they'd try their hands at a full-blown fascist relationship. Thoroughly and disturbingly entertaining, by the way. But the thing that really sticks out to me, and the primary reason why I wanted to make a quick-hitting video, was the final episode Syril was in. He realizes that his little adventures working for the ISB, doing recon on Gorman for his girlfriend and her boss, was to set a stage not for arresting outside agitators or bad eggs in the Gorman front, it's to prepare to forcibly remove 800,000 Gormans from their homes so that the Empire can get to the calcite mineral under the surface of the planet for their big beautiful energy energy source. Syril, who may or may not have begun having a degree of empathy for the members of the Gorman society, not that it was a major factor, didn't take it particularly well. In fact, he loses his mind upon the revelation. It took me a bit to really analyze what he may have been thinking, but I think I nailed down most of it. Syril's less upset about Gorman being brutalized and the Gore being killed, and more about the revelation that he was being used by everyone. He spent years doing all of this legwork in order to his knowledge at least, oust agitators that were not part of Gorman's society necessarily, but from external places that convene on Gorman to generate a response that forces the Empire to crack down. I will say I'm not ready to say he didn't care about Gorman at all. Syril's a complex character, and as we have established several times now, even the darkest characters can have a capacity for guilt or remorse. Whether that guilt or remorse is enough for them to turn a corner and walk away is another matter entirely. Syril was looking for these outside agitators, and it turns out he and the Empire are the outside agitators in question. The barricades being built up in anticipation, the increased troop presence. This was a manufactured event that the Empire wanted to happen, and thanks to Syril's intel, Dedra and the ISB were able to force the Gorman front to make a decision that offered a pretext for the most violent crackdown to date. Syril's unbending hero, the Galactic Empire of Law and Order, has revealed itself to be a liar and one that took advantage of the trust of a true believer like Syril, and his scary confrontation with Dedra is another example of that. I said in the past that Dedra in many ways is the physical embodiment of the Empire, at least to Syril. I argued that Syril, while definitely unhealthily infatuated with her as a person, is just as infatuated with what she represents. So when he realizes that Dedra had deceived him, he's realizing that the Empire deceived him. So when he's in the plaza watching the carnage and contemplating his hand in it before seeing Cassian and engaging in a surprisingly well-contested grudge match with him, it's him lashing out at it all. He's angry at the Empire, so he physically and verbally lashes out at Dedra. He's angry at Cassian for what he represents as a symbol of what began him on this particular path, and he's angry at himself. Cassian hitting Syril with the "who are you" after the years of Syril wasting his time going after him was, in my opinion, the actual death of Syril Karn before his physical one. All that work, all that passion he had for what he thought was a noble purpose, thrown thrown out the window because the institution he believed in didn't respect him enough to tell him the real reason why he was putting himself in harm's way for their interests. I said towards the end of my Syril Karn pipeline video that Syril represents the primarily young men that fall down that fascist pipeline and end up losing their family, their loved ones, their friends, and potentially their lives or freedom for an ideology whose existence hurts them too. Fascism is bad for everyone, even the ones who believe they like the idea of it. I wondered if Syril would have tried to take Cassian out had Carlo hadn't stepped in. And while it's interesting to guess or speculate, I honestly don't think from a narrative standpoint it really matters. Cyril's story is about how giving yourself to fascism and the fascist movement will inevitably destroy you, or make you an irrelevant cog that won't be remembered by your adversaries or even your beloved institution you died for. Maybe Syril would have walked away from it all. Maybe he would have pulled a Javert. Maybe he would have taken Cassian out in a rage. From a story perspective, Karn served his purpose. This is what fascism does to you. It breaks you down, and at the end of the day, you have nothing, not even fascism's gratitude. I point out a lot that Star Wars is ultimately about hope and redemption, and I still believe that that's broadly true. In fact, I think Syril Karn's story can still serve that purpose. Not for him, obviously, but as a cautionary tale for young men who are either on that path or drifting dangerously close to it. Look at what Syril Karn's journey looked like. And understand that's the kind of empty future where you do harm for fascism before getting thrown away by said fascism exists for virtually everyone that believes what he believed. And also keep in mind that it's never too late to recognize that and step back away from that ideology of hate so that you can go on with your life and genuinely be happy, unlike Syril Karn. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so that you're among the first to see any new content going forward. This is Mesa Windu out. Please continue to love each other in this crazy world that we live in, and always remember, the Force will be with you, always.